Hello everyone, this is Sean Hargreaves, and today I'm going to show you how I do a planet, looking from a landscape of another possible planet, and just kind of go through the sequence of how I start through to the end. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it's real time. It's not sped up, so I'm going to go through this as fast as I can without it getting too fast. But basically, this is how I start. Sometimes I'll start from scratch and just come up with a concept. But a lot of times, especially if you're doing matte painting, you'll go and cruise around the internet looking for images that you can collage together. On this one, I'll use a full image and just modify it somewhat, but I'm not going to do too much collaging with the original image again because I don't want to spend I don't want this tutorial to be hours long. First thing I've done here is I've just gone to Google and typed in desert landscape here. It'll give you the desert landscape under the web tab. I'll hit images and it'll give me a bunch of desert landscapes. Now what I do is I'll go over here to the top right because I need to get the highest resolution image I can get of a decent desert landscape. So here what they have is they just show you a bunch of images of landscapes, but in terms of the sizes, see, this is 2500 by 1600, 2046. This is 576 by 383. So it's all over the map in terms of the sizes. So to control that, and also to control the aspect ratio being the height versus the width, I know I want to have a wide aspect ratio and modify from there. So I'll go up here to this gear, click on it, search settings, come down to advanced search, click on that. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm telling the computer I'm telling the web I want desert landscape. Right now it's set to any size. Let's click on that. I'm wanting to go to large. And aspect ratio, any aspect ratio. I don't want any aspect ratio, I want widescreen. This is wide, but I want more of a panoramic. You can see the different types here. You've got tall, square, wide, and panoramic. We're going for more of a cinematic view, so you know, somewhere in here is good, wide and panoramic. So we'll hit panoramic. And here it has, you know, colors in image, any color, full color, black and white, transparent. I never mess around with this. I just mess around with these two things, image size and aspect ratio, and go from there. Advanced search, hit that. And now it's brought up these images. So, you know, you can just scroll through here and look at some really interesting desert images. The desert's great because it's just it's planetary in itself. You know, you can find some pretty interesting stuff. I mean, look at this thing. And then here, once you've clicked on the image, you've got visit page where the image came from, and then view image. So this is a 2500 by 832. Hit view image and it enlarges it. And then it has, you see the cursor has a plus sign, you can hit that. You can zoom in. Now it's negative, hit that, zoom back. So I mean, look at this. I've never seen a place like this. It's nuts. If you want to copy the image, I'm on a Mac. I hit Control. I hit. What do I hit? What do I hit? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I hit Control. Hold Control down and save image as. You just hit that. And as soon as you hit that, it'll ask where you want it to be sent to. I usually go to desktop or any other folder that I've got labeled. So you can go through and find your a landscape, at least a starter landscape that you can begin with, and a bunch of different I call them starter landscapes. You can take and piece together and collage and build your own image from many. But I like this image. This is the one that I chose. And again, I hold the control key down, hold down on the image with the cursor, save image as. Then you tell it where you want it to be saved to. So this is the image I went for, and saved it to my desktop, imported it into Photoshop, and I'll show you it in a minute. This image here was something I did a lot of painting on. This isn't really a collage. There was just a few rocks that I manipulated, but I just went to town on this. I just spent a lot of time on, not really a great amount of time, but a decent amount of time on this. One of my favorite films, especially as a child, was Forbidden Planet, 1956. Robbie the Robot coming in his little craft here on the right hand side, kicking up dust in the desert, and just these strange rock formations. It's almost like you're inside of a crater here with this rim in the background. And then these planets, and a number of people have asked me how I do my planets, which started me off on this whole tutorial, but we'll piece something together here, and so you can get an idea of something to build up off of. It'll get you started. So here's Alt F4, and a lot of painting with just a preset chalk brush and some other custom brushes, but I try to keep things down. I try not to go too crazy, you know, with different brushes. I'm trying to be free with my painting and my ideas without getting too bogged down with clicking and dragging and finding things and hotkeys. So this is a pretty successful image. I was pretty happy with this, and it's a good example to start off of. So let's move to our own project. So here's our landscape that we brought in. I've got a feeling of how I want the rings to sit. It's going to be very similar to this, just tilted up like this. So, and I know how my lighting is going to be. Here I've got the darkness on the right. I want the darkness on the left. I'm just gonna flip this. For those of you who don't use hotkeys, it's image rotation, flip canvas horizontal. It's a bit too wide for me, so I'm going to adjust the height of the canvas size. I'm going to just convert to inches here. I'm going to double the height of this, 8 inches. To extend the height vertically, you want to click in the middle and the bottom. And now it's extending vertically, as you see here. It's going to extend black. There you go. So what I do now is I'll get my rectangular marquee tool, and I'll just go in here like this. You want to get as much as possible, and then I'll go into Edit, Transform, Scale, and just grab the top center handle here, pull up. Click OK on the top, deselect. So now I've extended it, and yeah, it's a wide angle lens here, and you've got vertical gradations going on here, but it'll be fine, you know, for what we're doing. You can always add clouds and kind of camouflage that, but this is a nice pull. It works out pretty good. We've got a little bit of atmosphere down here on the bottom. So we have our background layer. What I do here is I'll just double click on that, set it to layer 0, then I'll duplicate the layer, duplicate layer, and I know that this bottom layer here is my master. I'll always duplicate my master layer. I always have a master layer that I can always go back to in case I get bogged down and get too far in. I have a hard time getting out and I just want to revert back to the master. The master is also good just to look at, just to refer back to from where you went from. Just turn that off now. So now I've got my planet. We'll manipulate this as we go down in the future on this tutorial. Right now I know this is working fine for me. So I'll go here to this little tab right here and I'll click on that. It'll give me another layer. I'll go up to Edit, Fill, and Black. So I'm done with looking at this. I know we're going to use it. I don't need to see it anymore. I'm going to cover it up with black, a black canvas here. Then I'm going to click this little tab again, add another layer. Now what I'm going to do is go to the Marquee tool again, go to elliptical Marquee tool. It says elliptical Marquee tool, but you can use it for ellipses. You can use it for an ellipse, and then you hold the shift key down and have another one. Keep holding the shift key down, you can have a bunch of ellipses and circles. But what we don't want an ellipse. We want a complete disk. And it's not giving us a disk, it's giving us the variations of an ellipse, and we can kind of guess, okay, this is that looks pretty close, but we don't want close, we want accurate. So what you want to do is hold the shift key down. We'll just start with an ellipse. If I'm going to hold the shift key down now, hold, see how it snaps to a circle. If I let go of the shift key, back to an ellipse. So there we have our circle that we're going to use as our base for our planet, our selection for our planet. Now, as you see here, it's just enlarging and I'm enlarging it and shrinking it, but I can't move it around on the canvas here. In order to do that, keeping your finger on the shift key, you hold down the space bar. So we are space bar, shift key and space bar moves it around. Let's enlarge this a bit. We'll just get it, eyeball the center on the canvas. So now we have it selected on our blank canvas. It's transparent, and I know it's transparent because I have this checkerboard here, like a chess set here on the layer stack. So now what we'll do is I go to Fill, 50% grey, and this will be my base that I'll work up off of. Keeping this selected, I add another layer, and I'm going to go to my brush tool here on the right. I'm going to go to my chalk brush. This is a chalk brush, see? And this is going to be my base layer of my planet. Now the key about doing planets is you want to have a pretty decent amount of detail in there. If you zoom the chalk brush up, for example, or any texture brush, you're going to get, it's not going to be very crisp. So you just have to work with it, and on a smaller size, and just kind of blend it in here like this. You know, so that's a pretty decent amount, pretty decent detailing there. So that's our first layer, our base layer. Here's another, we'll open another layer. I'm going to turn this off for a second here, and I'm going to go to my tool presets, and this is a pretty good preset here. I'm just, instead of, well, actually that's okay. So what we got here, punch up the flow here, and I'll just give it a decent amount of texture. It's like its secondary texture layer. So then I'll go to a third layer. Just build them up, you know, you just got to build them up and see what it looks like, see what works for you. It takes time. There's no real right or wrong way, it's just eyeballing, and I just like to build them up. You can just, instead of just painting, you could just do one where, or a few where you're just hitting it singularly like that. Which works also. So if I chose all of those layers, you see it's ridiculous. So I'm going to get rid of that one, and this one I'll just bring down. This one I'll bring down. Chalk brush is good because it's got a lot of grit in it. So this is for my darks. Now I'll go and hit it with some lighter ones. I'm going to push this all the way up to 100 on the flow. Okay. Take that one away. Let's take this one away. Here. Take this one away. So let's see. And yeah, and move it around. See, I just moved that around. A bit too much there, so I moved it underneath that black layer there. And just get as much, you know, texture as you can. So what I'll do now is I will choose this top layer here and the bottom layer of textures. Go up to layer, merge layers, and then the next step, because right now it's just flat, you know, it doesn't look like a planet, it doesn't have any dimension, it's just a flat disk with texture on it. So to get it to be dimensional, you go to filter, distort, spherize, filter, distort, spherize. Let's get this in here so we can see it. Go down to 50%. About 33. So if you look at this little, it's like a vector graphic or something here, you can see. And here, right now we're at 0. This matches this, and this is all flat. But we're gonna go to a positive 100. Negative 100 will give us a concavity, concave, convex, concave, and convex. So we want convex 100%. Hit OK and watch what happens in the big screen. Alright, so that's our first layer. Now we go to spherize again. You can hit this again like this, which is, it looks pretty good. So I think I'll go with that. I was going to do 50% of what the other one was, but that's actually pretty good. So there you see we're dimensional now. And what I'll do here is I'm going to just merge that down with our other disk. Deselect. And then I'm going to duplicate this layer. Now what happens when you spherize, as you see here, you keep information around the edges. It's actually compressing the information on the edges. It's compressing the texture, and it just makes it look, you know, more detailed. It's not. It's just giving the appearance, because it's like we're in perspective here, and this is coming out at us. So what happens here, right in the middle, the farthest point out, is the texture is compromised and it's losing grit. It's losing tooth, as we say, and you're losing information. So to try and bring some of that information back, what I'll do is I go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and this amount here, if you push it all the way up, you see it gets very gritty. You push the radius up and it goes nuts. I usually keep my radius around 2.5. Oops, 2.5. And then this number here, the amount, let's try 180. It's pretty good. Actually, let's try 200. Kick it up a bit more. And here you have a little preview here. This little tick mark here. That previews the, you know, you can zoom back here, but it's not quite big enough, the preview window. So if you want to preview on your actual screen, you just make sure that's on. On you can preview, off it you can't preview. Right. Now we're going to lose a certain amount of this information once we add some atmosphere. So 200 sounds good to me. On the upper layer of the two duplicated layers, hit OK. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the upper layer off, lower layer on, go back to Unsharp Mask, and I'm going to bring this down to 120. And hit OK. Then what I do on here is use my eraser, and I want to set my eraser to the chalk brush, chalk eraser, and let's bring this up to about 80. I'll just erase the upper layer. Now you don't see what's happening here, but I'm erasing here, because this is too textured here around the edges, and I've got a lower Unsharp Mask on the layer underneath to control the texture density. So it evens things out a little bit, so one isn't overpowering over the other one. Because again, if you just unsharp mask the whole thing, it's the same percentage. This which was blurry and this which was already sharpish, all go through that filter and they all change. But you really only want this foreground to change. You gotta separate the two. So that's what we've done here. All right. And again, I'll probably filter it again once we start adding atmosphere. But this is good for now. So clicking those two, merging those layers, I'm going to duplicate them and use that as a master. I'll move it down here, knowing that I can always go back to that. So here's our planet. Now just a little tip here, if you want to just select this and you don't want to, you know, get the Marquee tool and trying to figure out, you know, okay, where's the thing and the size of everything, you just go to here, hold the command key down and click in that window and watch what happens here. See, it's selected. But you have to have an object on a transparent. It'll select everything that's on the transparent window, you know, because remember this is transparent. If I had like another planet here and another planet here, it would select all those planets. If this was all filled in, it would select the whole thing. So just be wary of that. I don't need to select it. There was just a little tip there, but what we'll do now is I'm going to fiddle around with the color here. So I'm going to go to image adjustments, across and down to color balance. I'm going to go blue because let me just get that. Don't panic, I know it doesn't look so great right now, but it will. Just want to kind of match this bluish a bit here, because we're looking at the planet through an atmosphere of blue. I'm going to tint the whole thing, but you know, we're going to start with the base of matching. So we'll start with that. Looks pretty good. Again, preview, you know. So okay with that and that. So now we have this bluish atmosphere. One other thing you can do in terms of the sharpening is, see this here on the right hand side, the Sharpen tool. Come back. Sharpen tool, it's like a wedge, right? See up here, strength of the Sharpen tool, let's move it all the way up to 100. And what have I got it on brush? You can just see how it's sharpening. I keep pushing on it, pushing on it, pushing on it. That's another way of sharpening as well. So if I just gently, I'm on a Wacom tablet, just kind of sharpen it a little bit here. You just got to be careful, because depending on the size of your cursor, of your brush, depending on the power of your computer, it can take a little bit. You won't see immediate results. So just be careful of that. That was a Sharpen tool right here. Okay, now, so we're back to the planet. Hit this little tab again, another layer. Actually go back down to this layer. We are going to now select it, command key, go back up to our blank layer, and we'll add some atmosphere now. Navigator, where is my navigator? Okay, forget navigator. Navigator is another window that you can pop up and you can look at. If you're working on close, you can look at it far away. It's kind of like a painter painting and then walking back and looking at it and then going back in. Instead of having to walk back, it's right there, already in distance. So I'll have to figure out what happened to my navigator there. So where are you? Disappeared. So we'll add some atmosphere here. Let's go over here. Let's do we'll base this kind of on an earthy atmosphere. Let's try this kind of blue here. Maybe a little richer. Let's do something a little richer. So we're going to do a couple of layers of atmosphere. So we've got this color. We're going to add an atmosphere ring around here, around this planet. So we go to edit, stroke. Let's do 4. What this will do is it'll stroke the atmosphere around here, a line, or a circle around here following the selection. You have a choice of inside the selection, outside the selection, or center. And what we'll do is center, because we want the atmosphere to go inside and also outside the disk here, our planetary disk. Hit OK. So as you see, that's pretty, depending on the size of the planet, you know, atmospheres can give away sizes of planets. So this could be like a gigantic planet, but because I want to see it more, I'm going to, let's try 6 here. Let's get right up there to 12. Alright, that's better. I'm going to do 10. So now we've got our solid atmosphere, and we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. You know what I didn't do there is I did it under, I did it on the wrong layer. Okay, let's do everything again. Stroke, deselect. Okay, so now we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we have atmosphere. Let's try 6 here. Okay, and then we'll do this again. Reselect, stroke, and we're going to do 5, and I'm going to make this lighter. Okay, deselect, and then I'm going to give another Gaussian blur. Oops, that's a bit too much. Again, you know, you just have to fiddle around with it. Let's do 1. Okay, so we have our atmosphere on the rim. But, you know, it's not looking right yet. There's still stuff to be done with this, obviously. So then we go to another layer. Reselect, and I'm going to bring this down a bit, about there. I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to go to the airbrush, punch up the size, and just kind of eyeball this in. I know that I want my light to come in from the upper right. That's first layer. And lighter here. Okay. So I'm going to pull back on the transparency of this, deselect it, pull back to about 80. And this, I'll pull back to about 90. It does make a difference. You'll be like, oh, 90. But yeah, it does make a difference. Let's knock this down here a bit. Oh. Deselect. Okay. Of course, you can do clouds this way. Like if this texture is our surface, you can paint clouds in and then paint them in flat and then, you know, spherize them out, bulge them out. But I'm not going to do that on this one, just take too long. But it, again, is another choice. Okay, so I've got that atmosphere. The next thing I need to do is, what I'll do now is I'll merge these. I'm gonna knock this back a little bit. I'm gonna hit this with Gaussian blur again. And then this one I'm going to bring back a little bit. And I'll flatten, this is all my atmospheres for so I'll flatten this. And then what I'm going to do now is start erasing, and get rid of this, start erasing some of the planet. So that's how I'll give the planet its shadow. In outer space, there's no reflected light because there's nothing to reflect the light onto the surfaces of things. You know, it's not like here on planet Earth where you have a sphere on a ground plane and the light is hitting the sphere, hitting the ground and bouncing back onto the shadow side, and therefore you get what's called a core. We don't have that in outer space. You have your source light, unless there's multiple suns or a planet nearby, a giant planet, you're not going to get any reflected light, and your shadows are going to be black. So with that in mind, we'll just start eating into our planet here. Just go in a circular fashion. A little nerve-wracking sometimes at the beginning, you're like, oh no, but you just got to hold it in there, it'll be okay. And you have to do the same thing with your, I'm going to duplicate this. Do the same thing with this. You just got to be gentle, be patient. Don't go too crazy. Like, it's not a cookie, you're not eating it away too fast. Take your time. Take your time. Okay. Let's try something here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is, let's duplicate this layer here, and then I'm going to eat away at that a bit on that secondary layer. So I want a little bit of a highlighty thing going on here. It's a bit richer right here. A little bit of a highlight there. So it's pretty gritty here. You know, we can that'll get softened up once we get into our final here.